Welcome to The Other Side of the Page, a bookish podcast where we yap about the books we love
and the songs that give us main character energy.
We're here to sift through the chaos that is our TBR.
And to let you know why a book might just be your next favorite read.
I'm Britt, dramatic plot twist lover and champion for MMCs needing to be more pathetic and down bad.
And I'm Hannah, reader of at least 5 books at once and a detailed fantasy map enthusiast.
Every Wednesday, press play on a brand new bookish episode.
And stay up to date with the books we will be covering by following us on social media at othersideofthepagepod on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and Threads.
And don't forget to follow, rate, and review the podcast on your preferred platform with a shining 5 stars. It helps us so much with visibility.
This week, we're chatting about The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig and the songs we're adding to our bookish playlist.
Yes, we will be deep diving our song choices alongside the plot, chatting about our favorite moments, and telling you why The Night and the Moth should be bumped to the top of your TBR. So grab an iced coffee
or iced chai
and let's turn the page together.
Dear reader, here's a synopsis of The Night and the Moth. Sybil Delling has spent 9 years dreaming of having no dreams at all. Like the other foundling girls who traded a decade of service for a home in the great cathedral, Sybil is diviner. In her dreams, she receives visions from 6 unearthly figures known as omens. From them, she can predict terrible things before they occur, and lords and common folk alike travel across the kingdom of Turam's wind-swept moors to learn their futures by her dreams. Just as she and her sister diviners near the end of their service, a mysterious knight arrives at the cathedral. Heretical and devilishly handsome, the knight Roderick has no respect for Sybil's visions. But when Sybil's fellow diviners begin to vanish one by one, she had no choice but to seek his help in finding them. For the world outside the cathedral's cloister, thanks. Mm-hmm. There's some very fancy words in here. Is wrought with peril. Only the gods have answers she is seeking. And as much as she'd rather avoid Roderick's dark eyes and sharp tongue, only a heretic can defeat a god or an albatross.
Oh, who said that?
But we think you should read this book if you want incredible gothic vibes, an absolutely endearing gargoyle sidekick, Bartholomew,
I love
and
it.
A fresh fantasy story that stands leagues above the pack.
Yes, and you might want to avoid this book if any of the following are potentially triggering for you. Death, violence, drowning, kidnapping, grief, blood, emotional abuse, injury, sexual content, confinement, or if you like your fantasy a little bit like... This is like definitely set in like a gothic world. So if that is not your vibe, probably avoid this one. But it is, God, this book is good. And remember that moving forward, we will be talking about the book as a whole. So there will be spoilers. So if you have not read The Night and the Moth yet, pause the podcast, go pick this book up right now, and then return to us once you've read it.
Yes. Are we ready to talk about our songs?
I love our song choices so much.
So good.
So good.
My song, there's already an Easter egg for it. Basically, I already spoiled it. But I picked The Albatross by Taylor Swift.
Yes, and I picked a song, I'll talk about it again here, but I picked a song that if TTPD had been released sooner or we had released our episode later, I would have picked the song for Rachel Gillig's other book that we covered, One Dark Window. But I picked The Prophecy by Taylor Swift, and I'm glad that I didn't have the chance to pick it because I think it fits perfectly for this book.
It really does.
Yes. So we're going to move into our Pages Turned and Bridges Burned section. So we're going to tell you what each of our theme lyrics from our songs are and explain a little bit more in detail about why we picked the song. And then we're going to dive into chatting about The Night and the Moth.
Yes. So my theme lyric from The Albatross is, "A rose by any other name is a scandal. Cautions issued, he stood, shooting the messengers. They tried to warn him about her." And so, like, this lyric to me is really, well, the song itself, like, when I finish the book, because sometimes I think of songs as I'm reading, but this book, I didn't really think of anything until I finished it, and kind of that last scene.
Totally.
I was like, you know what? The albatross, like, and it's just really Sybil's energy at the end of the book and going into the second book and kind of what that is building up to.
Yeah.
And the lyric at the beginning of this song, it connects to me with the book too, because when she was a diviner, I mean, she still kind of is, but when we first meet her, she's known as Six. So like that is her name, and to be known by any other name is kind of a scandal or blasphemy to like know what her real name is. So that's what reminded me of it there. Like the cautions issued are like the omens and the shooting the messengers because that's what they're kind of defeating and going after. And
Yeah,
their quest to destroy that. You know, an omen is like to warn and all that thing. So
yeah,
that's just kind of that lyric there is the book for me.
totally. And I know usually we end up like, picking and choosing lyrics. I feel like I'm going to end up talking about the prophecy in its entirety because the song is just everything. But the theme lyric that I chose was a greater woman has faith, but even statues crumble if they're made to wait. I'm so afraid I sealed my fate. This was the first song to come to me. I looked elsewhere just to see, but it was kind of an immediate pick. For me, the vibe of the song fits the gothic setting really, really well. But
Mm-hmm.
stone and prophecy, false gods, false omens specifically, the line is in regards to one, her stone eyes and just the reveal that we have there, and two, her coming to terms with the betrayal at the end, that she finally had felt and found love and it was being stripped from her yet again. And not just the love that she had found, but like the life that she had built. She had been lied to like her entire tenure as a diviner, and just her kind of coming to terms with like a greater woman has faith that things are going to work out. But in that moment, she was like, this is my only option.
Mm-hmm.
And things are going to crumble if we wait too long. So that's my theme lyric. I am very excited to talk about it through the rest of the book. But moving forward, let's just talk about like the fantasy vibes in comparison to other fantasy we read, because this book is gothic. It's very poetic and haunting. We do kind of tend to lead more toward like a standard brand of marketable romantasy. Obviously, not that
Mm-hmm.
this isn't marketable, like this is a New York Times bestseller, but like there's like a genre, and Rachel
Mm-hmm.
Gillig definitely has her own niche within the marketable genre. So how did this compare to kind of what you've read recently and what the vibes are?
Yeah, it did take me a couple chapters to really dive in because I feel
Yeah,
like my summer vibes isn't really like a gothic fantasy vibes. Like
I agree.
that's like fall winter for me. Like when we read One
Yes.
Dark Window was like perfect
Yep.
time for that. Like last summer we were reading about mermaids in our
Yes.
romance fantasy. So, but once I got into it, I was into it. Like
Yeah.
I did not want to put this book down.
And then did you end up liking this more or less than the Shepherd King duology? Because side note, we both love the Shepherd King duology, One Dark Window, Two Twisted Crowns. But I was curious to know what your kind of initial thoughts were.
I liked it 100% more. So
Yeah.
much more. I think, yeah, instantly I was like top of the list of my
Yeah.
favorite reads of this year. And I feel like One Dark Window was up there for me, but I didn't have that like initial
Totally.
reaction. What about
Yeah.
for you?
I think the same. I think for me, it was this book was a stellar straight out of the gate. No questions. I loved every single second. One Dark Window felt like a little bit of like a slower pace. However, my rating of One Dark Window went up after I read Two Twisted Crowns
Mm-hmm.
because I loved like the connection that they had and how much Two Twisted Crowns kind of like amplified what happened in One Dark Window. And I felt like
Yeah.
they worked really, really well together. But I do feel like this was so strong. And something that I really, really liked about this, sometimes, personally for me, overly descriptive and flowery language can sound beautiful, but it takes me out of a story. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
that Rachel Gillig did a phenomenal job making super punchy and very like every single word that she chose was so intentional, but it was still beautiful prose. It was still
Mm-hmm.
like a stunning read, but I never was sitting there going like, dear God, how many descriptors can we use in a sentence back to back to back? But this was, in my opinion, this was the perfect balance. Like this is like I will put this book on a pedestal as like this like type of fantasy book is like my I just love it. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times we beg authors to like, show us, not tell us.
Yeah.
But I feel like how she wrote it, it fits the
Mhm.
vibe of that gothic world so well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like now being kind of on the other side of it too and getting the vibes of like show don't tell. It's like such it's tricky because like
mm-hmm.
it's storytelling. I saw like an agent post about that the other day.
Yeah.
Like it's, sometimes telling is the quickest, most efficient way to get there and you don't need to
Mm-hmm.
show absolutely everything. And
No.
I think that she put on a masterclass in the balance between the two. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt immersed in the world. I understood what was going on. And I did listen to the audiobook of this one, and I slowed it down. Like, I listen to my audiobooks usually 1.75, 2 times speed, depending on the genre. And I started this at like, I think 1.3, 1.35. And then I ended up bumping it up at the end once I got like a grasp on the world. But I didn't want it to end. Like, I just loved it.
Yeah, I did 50-50. And I'm glad I did the audiobook though too, because it helped with pronunciation of some words.
Oh, totally.
Because I think I would have called the diviners diviners,
Mm-hmm.
like divination and like that.
Yeah.
So to read that and then a couple other words, I'm like, okay, I'm glad I listened to it so I could connect it as I was reading it, or else.
Well, because now that I'm looking at like the book, like Ashling, I would have never pronounced that way if I had read it.
Yeah.
And there are just so many things, but I also thought that the narrator's portrayal of the gargoyle, which we'll talk about him a little bit later too, like the voice that she gave him, what a phenomenal side character. Like, I've never quite read anything like a side character like Bartholomew, and I just love him. But before we get there, as Hannah said in her intro, she is a detailed fantasy map enthusiast. So I want to know your thoughts about the fantasy map, because I have like, I look at a map and I go, ooh, fun, a map. But like, Hannah loves a good map.
Yes. So I mean, this map is very simple, but it's like good. But I was confused. So Rachel, if you're listening to this, I feel like they quickly walked from the cathedral to the castle. And like on the map, it does not seem like it's that close to walk as quickly as they did. But
that's fair.
But it's also a magical world, so
that's so true. And like, you know, perspective can be different, and like how far.
And it's also like downhill, so
maybe they just went like, a little faster.
Yeah, maybe there's like secret passageways that we don't know about.
That could be.
But no, I really liked the map though. I love looking at it, like, because when they start throwing things out, right, like we talked about the chiming wood, the hot spring, like all of this stuff, it's like so cool to like see it in relation to everything.
Yeah.
So you get an idea of like how far, because at first I was like, oh, the cathedral and the castle are probably like right next to each other.
Yeah.
And then looking at the map, you're like, oh no, okay, they are a little bit further, like they're separated, like the cathedral is kind of off to the side. So
yeah, and you see like the chiming wood down there, the cliffs on the exact opposite side. Like there's so many pieces, but I do feel like she bridged time really well in this too. Like the passage of time was done well. Also, I'm just noticing, because you know, I think it took me like 2 weeks to get through this, because I was reading other things, listening to other things, and this I felt like I had to be like locked and loaded into, because if I tried to listen to it when I wasn't 100%, I felt like I missed so many crucial details. So I waited until I was really focused on this one. But the book does start with the Ashling Cathedral, which with the, you know, the story of Bartholomew, though you do not remember it. And I'll tell it to you the best I can and promise to be honest in my tale bearing. And that was the opening to the book. So now that I'm like, I honestly forgot that was the opening. And now that I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, my heart.
I know.
My heart. Talk about like the diviners. Like, I feel like Rachel has a talent for creating like very unique magic systems, and very like, they're obviously rooted in some, you know, mythology or knowledge or something like that. But I feel like her worlds feel fresh and new.
Yeah. Because one Dark Window, the cards, and this one, there was a lot going on in this one.
There's a lot going on with the magic system, like the omens and like the specific like wells that have this magic in them, but then also the water, and also like this like thirst for power from people who we thought were trustworthy. And like there's so many layers to this that, you know, we read the first book in a duology, so obviously we're going to have open threads and unanswered questions.
There's so many plot holes. I'm just kidding.
I read this book and I didn't understand why this happened, and I need to know what happens right now. You're like, yeah, babes, that's what book 2 is for. Like,
that's how they get you.
Yeah, that's one thing that like, guys, please, if you do this, we love you still, I promise. But like, if you're reading a series and you read like the first book and you go, I just don't understand, like there's so many questions that I have, that's correct. That is, you should have questions. Now, it shouldn't be confusing. You should be able to like understand at least like the basis of what's happening. But like, you should leave the first book in a series wondering what's going to happen next. And yeah, the diviners. So we had 1 through 6. And I think it was like seeing her as 6 originally, the way that Sybil was portrayed and the way that she carried herself as being like, what do I want to say? Like the mom of the group, the mom friend, basically.
Yeah.
But something that tied to the end at the beginning is when Gargoyle called her out unintentionally pulling the short straw every time so others didn't have to. And I had a feeling because just based on her character at the beginning, but having his confirmation of everything was just very interesting. And the fact that, you know, she was prided and she was lauded as being like the perfect little diviner. And her reward for the end, we find out, was her options were death or to be a servant gargoyle, which she would have been turned into because she was the perfect one.
Yep.
Yeah, what did you think about the diviners, about them disappearing? Like what was your thoughts and vibes that you had there?
I literally just, you talk about it later about being just like a passenger princess for this book, and that's how I wrote out the vibes for this. Like I don't think I really like had a thought. I just went through it. So I thought like I was with Sybil on that, like that they didn't run away, because that's what like they were being told, right, that they ran away. And
yeah,
so I didn't really know, like I did not have an idea that they were going to be like with their service, like what would happen.
yeah. The one thing, so I did passenger princess myself this way through the book. The one thing though that I was like, they were talking about the 10 years of service, and I was like, there's no way they're just let into the world for a new life. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know where they were going, what they were doing, what was happening with them, but I was just like, there's something isn't adding up here.
Yeah. The shroud was interesting to me. I was worried that she was going to be kind of like the maiden that I read in like some fantasy books, you know, that like is helpless and doesn't know anything. And
Oh yeah.
and I was like, oh gosh. But no, she was great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that she was strong, as in like she had always been strong, but she was stepping into herself throughout the book.
Yeah.
At the behest of Benji and of Rory, but of Benji specifically, which we know now was for nefarious purposes and selfish reasons. I have a lot to say about Benji. But I do want to talk about Gargoyle real quick, because Bartholomew.
The bat-like gargoyle.
The bat-like gargoyle. Again, the audiobook characterization of him was spectacular. So like I was giggling. And this is not a book where you giggle a whole lot, but like anytime Gargoyle said something, I giggled. Like, for example, one of my quotes that I pulled is, by the seat of my skirts, he grabbed my waist, smiled, and then onto mighty feet, the gargoyle sprang from the ground. His wings spread, beat the air, stirring smoke. I held to his neck and he to my waist, and then we were soaring. Seat of my pants, I called over the wind. And
I know he had so many of those, it cracked me up.
But like they were so creative, and it's so funny because he was just barely missing the point and missing the mark on those. But in retrospect, he was very childlike, and he was very, I don't know how I want to say that, but like you could tell once you got the information and you look back on him, you're like, oh my God. When I was listening to the last part of this audiobook, I texted Hannah because I said, don't do it when you're driving. Don't, because I'm sitting in my car with my jaw popped open and tears streaming down my face. Like, don't do this to yourself. I knew he was important, obviously, but like I just had not a fathomable clue in my mind that the twist was actually that.
No. Yeah, I had no idea. I just think he was just a great companion, and I just love that he called everybody Bartholomew.
Yes.
And I think at Rory one point I was like, is that your name? Like to Sybil? And she's like, no, he just go with it. Like he just calls everybody that. And when he like breaks down to her and he's like crying and like, I thought you were leaving me.
My like, heart. No. Oh my God. And the end when he was being taken away by Rory and he was crying out for her and was like, I have to stay with you. And the fact that we know that he was a child and he didn't get to live his life. And the fact, too, that Sybil was dead. Like, Sybil died.
Mm-hmm.
And you mention it in here, and I am curious, the spring water. You asked, like, how is Sybil going to survive?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
How many years does she have?
Like,
Do you
in
remember how?
service?
Yeah.
9 so far.
Okay.
So she was coming into her 10th. Like, I think they were finishing out their, like, service almost.
Okay.
But
yeah, because they destroyed the spring. So I'm
Mhm.
like, how?
And also, like, the way that they've been controlling these false gods, these omens over time,
Mm-hmm.
is by giving them a little bit and then starving them of it. So is Sybil going to start to see the adverse effects of not having access to this water? Like, what is that going to look like? Do we think she's going to dismantle the king's palace from the inside out? I mean, probably. Yeah, obviously. We all know Rory's not going to fucking stay away. Like, he sure is not doing that.
No.
Like, he will not be doing that. But right now, Gargoyle is harmed. When he hit his wing, like when Benji turned. So I did not guess that Benji was going to have like this betrayal in this way. I was a little suspect. You put it in here as well when he was doing the knighting and he was
Well,
like,
I was also suspicious of him when she found his grandfather's notebook.
ooh,
And like his reaction there kind of like did put him on my radar that like something wasn't
yeah,
normal.
yeah. I don't, I
But the
think that,
knighting where he like was very pushy.
yes. And then he realized like Rory was pushing her to not say anything that she felt uncomfortable with and to not
Mm-hmm.
pledge herself 100%. But there were a couple of moments where she said that his boy-like mask like kind of slipped, or like the innocent pieces of him, he didn't look like a boy anymore. He felt more like the king.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was his mask slipping. Like I feel like he 100% played into the 17-year-old boy taking over this knighthood, bumbling around, not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then those moments where she noticed him like crack or like harden up were in like unintentional slips of his mask.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what happens there. But I want to tie in like one of my lyrics here real quick. So
Yeah.
the lyric specifically, and it was written, I got cursed like Eve got bitten. Oh, was it punishment? And so I think that like the betrayal with Benji, Sybil had no recollection of her time before becoming a diviner, and we'll talk about the Weaver omen too, so we can like tie in that story here. But her life, she had a life's purpose of being a diviner and like stepping into this, and after 10 years, she was going to have her second chance of life. And now her life is beginning to feel like a curse rather than the divine blessing that it was, and she always thought it was. And she's wondering, like, is this like, oh, like, was it punishment? Like, is what's happening to me punishment? Like, me sending Rory and Gargoyle away, this is going to be punishment for maybe not realizing, not seeing the farce, not realizing that she could never protect the diviners, that she was always subject to a life of kind of being held captive in different ways. Like she was captive to being poor and sick when she was younger. She was captive to being a diviner, and now she's been taken captive by Benji. And if she wasn't taken captive by Benji and this whole story wouldn't have happened, she would have been turned into fucking stone.
Isn't that crazy?
It is, and it ties into the next line too that I have, which is slow as the quicksand, poison blood from the wound of the pricked hand. Oh, still I dream of him. And I think this ties into the water. This ties into blood being taken, where she, when they were doing the dreaming and they make the cuts, or when people are trying to drink from her and from the diviners to take their fill of the spring water. And through all of that, still she was able to find like a slice of happiness and a slice of joy with Roderick. I think like what I love about this too is that the One Dark Window felt a little more like young adult, new adult to me. I know there was some like, sexual content, so it's not technically young adult, but that felt a little bit more. And this felt like a step into like a full adult duology where like
Yeah.
the romance beats, the tension between her and Rory was so delicious. Like it was beautiful. But yeah, I just love like this song. I just listened to the song on repeat after finishing the book because it was just everything.
That's a good one. kind of going back to what we were talking about, like the spring water, and
Yeah.
that's like one of the lyrics for me too is from my song. It's only liquor anoints you. She's the albatross. She's here to destroy you. And
Mm.
so this lyric reminds me of how like the spring water or like, liquor in the song is what gives the magic strength. So that's what kind of anoints the people and gives them
Mm-hmm.
that portion, right? The next line is like, she's the albatross, which is Sybil to me is the albatross, which I had to look up what an albatross was because I did not know. So it's a large bird,
Yep.
but apparently there's a phrase too that's an albatross around your neck, which I
Mm-hmm.
never heard that before, which means that you are a burden or a source of great trouble or difficulty for someone.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think Sybil's going to play a big role in the second book, kind of being that force, and she's going to destroy you and destroy the omens, Benji, all of this stuff that has been building up.
Yeah.
And later in the song, it's like devils that raise worse hell than a stranger. So I just like that,
Mm-hmm.
like the gargoyle, the devil, the people that have the magic in them too.
Yep.
But she's the death that you chose. You're in terrible danger. And that
Mm-hmm.
to me sounds like the end of the book, right? Because the
Yeah.
book ends, the
Mm-hmm.
King of Trum smiled at me, his future queen. And so it's like, she's the death that you chose. You're in
Mm-hmm.
terrible danger. So like
Yes.
that to me is like the end of the
Mm-hmm.
book, going into the next one. Just like,
Yeah.
like you chose her because like Benji calls her like my diviner, right? Like all this stuff. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like that line to me is just better watch out because she's the
Um,
death you chose.
yeah. Just thinking about your song, because your song's such a good pick too. I love the line, now me dissecting your song, because this actually was
Thank
one that
you.
I listened to. The locked me up in towers, but I'd visit in your dreams, and they tried to warn you about me. Like, just so many pieces that like very loosely
Um,
like tie them together.
yeah, because it's like spread my wings like a parachute,
Mm-hmm.
like the moth, the albatross, like that
Yes.
parallel too
100%.
was my thought.
Yeah. I had, because I feel like this ties in with the omens. So just going back to the omens here, what one specifically for you was like the most captivating or interesting for you to like watch them defeat? Because they were, all of them were very different. One stood out to me in particular. Do you have one that stood out to you in particular?
I don't think there was like one that really stuck out like too much,
Mm-hmm.
but I did really like the Heartsore Weaver
Mm-hmm.
and how like revealing the origin story of the gargoyles. And I
Yeah.
think that really stuck with me because I think that's when I was just like glued to the book.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh gosh, like we just like really saw that cycle and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of what's going on, and it just like unweaved everything, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's when too, like doesn't like the Weaver tell like Sybil to like end her life, like
Yes. And
and then
that's
that's where
like I thought it was fake. I thought she was in for like a massive problem.
hmm and that's when I feel like Sybil like had that thought like she's like liberation, like okay, I need to like
Yeah.
break out of this cycle that we're stuck in right now in this world.
Yeah. And I think it's very interesting too that they were talking about the abyss and just how, yeah, like you said, like the weaving together, it's like unweaving the story and
Mm-hmm.
pulling every thread that Sybil held together and realizing that the person that she thought was her savior was actually like ruining people's lives, was killing people, and was quote unquote rescuing these girls to give them a life of servitude, only to not actually release them as promised, but to instead offer them as feedings to these false gods that they created with these magical omens. And there's just so much like, for me, the one that was very visceral was the chimes. I don't know what it was about that, but when they were in like the chime forest and Benji was having like a full blown like,
That was wild.
he was like higher than a kite from the chimes. And I thought it was so interesting how she used like the discordant versus the harmonious sounds to create different like tensions and feelings within each person as they were listening. And they had the like the idleweed, and then the knight got like swallowed by the tree, and the tree was like, trees were made of sprites, and then they had the bark, and there were like, gargoyle put her up on the branches and she was trying to get the chimes off, and like that whole thing was so like crazy visceral to me. I was like, this is wild. So that one stuck out to me. But I was, like you said, once I got into it, like I think I was listening to maybe like half a chapter a day. But once I got past those first few, I was like, oh, this is crazy. But I have two, like, where is it? Another quote that I have is the lyric, thought I caught lightning in a bottle, oh, but it's gone again. And it ties to the quote of, I was losing my faith in everything, but the two of us meeting and almost felt divine. She never allowed herself to feel these things. Like, if she went to the fields to have her fun, it was literally just to have fun. And it was never
Mm-hmm.
to experience anything beyond like a blip moment in time. Like, she hadn't experienced pleasure. She hadn't experienced all of these things. And she like thought I caught lightning in a bottle, but just like everything else, it's gone. I mean, just the chorus I'm going to read. Please, I've been on my knees. Change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? And like, cards on the table, mine play out like fools in a fable. It was sinking in. That's what it is, though. Fools in a fable. These omens
Mm-hmm.
are fables. And
Yep.
it's not that these omens don't hold magic or powers, but it's quite literally a farce. Like, it's a fable. And this song is just like begging to, all she wanted when she got through this was happiness. And there's something that Benji said at the end, and I don't have the exact quote. It's going to take me forever to find it. But it's when he's looking at her and is basically like, what do you mean? You've traveled. You defeated these omens. You found love. You saw life. You've lived a life. Congratulations. Now you get to come and be with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, one, that was a short span and he's a piece of shit. And two, it ties into the prophecy. Like, who do I have to speak to change this? But she
Mm-hmm.
accepts her fate in the end. She accepts it and she says, like, go ahead. And like, I sound like an infant feeling like the very last drops of an ink pen. A greater woman stays cool, but I howl like a wolf at the moon. And I look unstable, gathered with a coven round a sorcerer's table. Yeah, this song is everything to me. One, I don't think I've ever listened to a song like that described me as a person more than the prophecy. And I say that with Peace being my favorite song of all time, but this comes really close. But yeah, I just like, when this came out too, the cards on the table, mine play out like fools in a fable. That's why I tied it into One Dark Window too, but it just fits so much better here. The crumbling statues, the stone, actually like prophesizing, like the
Mm-hmm.
art of divining, of them dreaming and speaking of these omens. I'm really curious though, because all of these omens were like crafted and they were a farce as we're heading into book 2. I'm very curious to know a little bit more about like the back end of like the diviner side of things with like
Mm-hmm.
the dreams, because we don't have a full explanation of that yet.
No. No, I'm
But yeah.
excited to learn more about it.
Hmm.
One of my favorite quotes from the book is, "You're more special than you realize. I don't even know your name." He drew in a breath, "and I would do anything for you."
Mm.
Oh, Rory.
I love him. And to tie in a a quote about Rory on like the opposite side of it, because man, he was down bad. He really was. But I have the quote, "You are an incomparable fiend, Roderick Mendacious, a truly accomplished asshole." And man, if those two quotes don't describe their entire relationship. But yeah, I loved this book. I thought it was beautiful. I feel like this book is the perfect blend of both of our tastes. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it is like, if me and you like married our exact taste together, it would be The
Because
Night
I
and the
think
Moth.
people would be surprised. I feel like they think that we have the exact same taste in books
Yes.
because we
Yes.
do like a lot of the same things,
Hmm.
but our taste in books is also wildly
It
different.
is, you guys. You would not believe the amount of times that I like read a book. It is 5 stars. I fall in love with it, but I tell Hannah, do not pick it up. You will hate this book. And she does the same to me. She's like,
I
Britt,
do.
this was amazing. I loved it. She goes, don't read it. You're not gonna
Don't read
like
it.
it.
Don't read it. Just enjoy me telling you about it.
Yeah, like there's just so many pieces that are like, it's so
Yeah.
funny. But yeah, I think this is like our perfect hybrid book.
Hmm. And what the other quote I have down here
Yes.
is, we kind of already talked about it, but it's at the beginning and
Hmm.
near the end. But you know the story, Bartholomew, though you do not remember it. I'll tell it to you as best as I can and promise to be honest in my tale bearing. If I'm not, that's hardly my fault. To tell a story is in part to tell a lie, isn't it?
Mm.
And I like that because it just makes you think, right? Like,
Yeah.
retelling these stories or a story in general. As the diviners too, one thing they would do is like tell each other what they would do once they leave.
Yes.
They're like, this is what I'm going to do. And so it just, the story, a fable, it's just all of this. It's a lie. It's not necessarily true.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm going to leave it with one last quote that I have here that I think everyone needs to hear. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, damn, this is a good quote. And it's, you don't have to be good or useful for someone to care about you.
It's a great way to end it.
Yeah, I love this book. I love that quote. Rachel Gillig, I also love you. Thank you so much for writing this book.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for turning the pages with us this week. And they are beautiful pages on our, if you're watching the video, on our
Barnes
special
& Noble
editions that we have. Gorgeous.
Stunning.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Patreon, and join our newsletter, which will start next month because
I think we said next month, last month, but it's fine. We'll just keep it up.
I mean, people, I need you to subscribe to it because right now it's like me, Britt, and my other friend Britt, and like I think two other
your
people.
Mother-in-law.
Yeah. So people join my newsletter, so I put it out to more people here.
Yes. And then please, please, please drop a review and a 5-star rating of the podcast on your preferred platform and share it with your bookish besties.
Next week, we are doing a super fun episode where we are judging books by their covers. Yes, we are. Non-derogatory, of course, and sharing some of the most beautiful covers that we have on our shelves and books we want to read solely because of their covers.
Exactly. We cannot wait for that episode. We will see you all next week. And forever and always,
keep reading with kindness.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I'm amazed that we did that.
I know. Look at us go. The Kingdom of Trum's windswept.
You got this.
My content, it's like blurry. I'm like trying to read it. Rude, heretical.
Mm-hmm.
Heretical.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Heretic.